Hi, I'm Lynette, aka London Makeup Artistry, and welcome to my channel. Today I'm bringing you my favorite eyeshadow palettes. So if you like these types of videos, go ahead and hit the like button and subscribe because I do these videos and makeup tutorials, reviews, hauls, and swatches here on my channel every Saturday. And while you're down there, hit that little bell so you won't miss one. I'm filming today during the bomb typhoon. I think that's what they're calling it, that we're having here in the Northeast. We're having blizzard-like conditions. It's snowing. We have heavy snow here right now. I got dressed to go to work, went out, got up, looked out the window, wasn't too bad, got dressed. And by 7:30, went out, got in the truck, and started down the road and was like, the hubster was like, this ain't happening. Turned around and came back. So it's bad. And it is now... what is going on 11 o'clock now? No, it's 10:30 in the morning now, and it's like you can barely see outside because the wind and the snow. So I thought I would take this opportunity to film this video for you. Now this is my everyday work makeup. So this is the look that I wear Monday through Friday when I go to work. So this is what I look like on the daily, and I recognize the irony of my bringing you a favorite eyeshadow palettes video, and I'm not wearing any eyeshadow. So, you know, I already did my makeup, and yeah, so if you would like a video though, maybe a get ready with me on my doing just my basic face, and I do everything. Highlight, contour, foundation, everything. I do the works, everything except false lashes, because I'm not fooling with that, and eyeshadow, because during the week when I'm trying to get to work, ain't nobody got time for that. I went through my collection to pull out my favorites, and I actually ran across one eyeshadow palette that I kind of forgot about. So I think it's good every now and then to go through your collection and just see the hidden treasures that you have been forgotten about, lost in the sauce, because all the new stuff comes in and we forget about the old stuff. But anyway, I'm going to start with my the first high-end eyeshadow palette that I ever purchased when I started getting serious into makeup. And it's an oldie but a goodie. It's a classic. It's an icon. It's a legend. You can probably guess what it is. It's the Too Faced Chocolate Bar palette. And this palette, I will admit, I don't use very much anymore. This is what she looks like. Isn't she pretty? Neutral shades. This was like the original neutral palette. It's got that beautiful dark reddish brown, maroon, burgundy color. It's got your shimmers, it's got your mattes, it's got your crease colors, it's got your underbrow highlight. This palette pretty much has it all. It's got a mirror, and it smells like chocolate. I've had this palette for years now, and it has the little plastic with the names of the shadows on it, and it still has the scent of chocolate. And if you think I have a makeup addiction, girl, it does not rival my chocolate addiction, okay? So everything, in my opinion, is perfect about this palette. Still, Too Faced was still doing the metal tints. I know they have the new chocolate gold palette that's plastic, but this is still the tin. This is the one that started it all, y'all. Okay, I'm guessing everybody who's serious about makeup, I would imagine, has this palette, and if you don't, you should, because it's a great basic neutral palette. I don't reach for her much anymore, but she will always remain one of my favorites. Next up is a palette that I actually forgot about, and when I was pulling palettes together for this video, I saw her and I said, oh my god, she definitely has to be included because she's one of my favorites. And now that I've pulled her out again, I'm going to start using her again. And it is the Vegas Lights palette from Makeup Geek. You guys remember this palette? She's an oldie too. A small palette. Another sort of neutral, warm palette. You have this like mustard, dirty yellow color. You got some shimmers here. These shimmers are beautiful. You got this dark sparkly shade. And then you got your mattes highlight shade. This is Casino, Sin City, and Roulette. As you can see, this palette has been much loved. I remember when I got this palette, I feel like I'm going to say this about a lot of these palettes today, but I remember when I first got this palette, I used it all the time. I think the very first, I want to say the very first video I posted here on YouTube, I was wearing this palette on my eyes, and she's a beauty. And you don't hear much about Makeup Geek. I kind of feel like Makeup Geek has fallen off. You don't really hear much about them. I think their last big release was the Manny MUA collaboration. I think they have released maybe a couple of palettes since then, some neutral, maybe 4-pan palettes, but they didn't really make a big splash. But I think this was one of their first, if not their first, eyeshadow palette, and it's a good one. And I'm going to put it here where I can see it so I can start using it again. Next up is another oldie, but another much loved palette, and it is my Lorac Unzipped palette. This is the original Unzipped palette. They have since released recently, like I think it was 3 or 4 palettes under the Unzipped umbrella, but they're much more colorful, warm. This was the original one. They do have the Unzipped Gold, which I didn't get because it just seemed like it was too similar to this one. And you can see it's a hot mess because I love this palette. This is more of a cool tone neutral palette, and I love cool tones. Probably that's why I gravitated towards it. You have these beautiful neutral shimmer shades, and then I love these colors. This is like a burgundy brown, but it's more brown than burgundy. You got another dark brown here. Again, you have a light underbrow highlight shade, your neutral crease colors. So you've got your 4 matte shades here on the end, your shimmer shades, and then a matte highlight shade. This is a beautiful neutral toned palette, and I feel like a lot of people sleep on Lorac shadows. I know they have their Mega Pro palettes now, but Lorac shadows are some of my favorites. The shimmer shades are so soft and buttery smooth. The mattes are pigmented, they blend beautifully. They make some really nice shadows. And for me, this palette has it all. Neutral, cool tones, shimmers, mattes, beautiful. Another palette that I used all the time when I first got it. So that's going to be on my all-time favorite list forever. We're getting away from, for a little bit, we're getting away from the neutral tone palettes and getting into a little more color. And this is the first palette that was released from this brand, and it is the Lime Crime Venus palette. Beautiful packaging, and these are the shades. And now we're getting a little warmer with that beautiful burgundy matte shade, this neutral cool tone brown shade. You got like this pinkish shade, this dark. I mean, beautiful. If you were looking for a nice rose toned palette with burgundies, pinkish coral shades, this is the palette. I'll show you a couple of swatches. This is Venus, this is Muse, and this is Rebirth. It's a beautiful cranberry burgundy toned palette. You do get a lot of kick up in the pan, but the pigmentation is really deep. And these shadows perform well, and this is one of my favorite palettes. When I'm looking for a dark burgundy shade, I will often go to this palette. On to more palettes. The next palette is a more recent palette. It is from ColourPop, and this is the Yes Please palette. Why it says Cute AF on the front, I have no idea, but it's the Yes Please palette. And this palette is a nice, colorful, more warmer tone palette. You've got your orangey coral shades here, your yellows, you got shimmers and mattes, you've got your neutral matte shades here. Some people were saying that this was a good dupe for or an alternative to the Natasha Denona Sunset palette because it has similar tones in it, these oranges and cranberries and yellows and warm browns. And this is a great palette. I used it a lot in the summertime. These are a few of the shades here. I think ColourPop makes some of the best eyeshadows on the market at the best value. It's a cardboard palette with a magnetic closure, and it has the names of the eyeshadows on the back. And it's a beautiful, beautiful all-around palette with mattes and shimmer shades. So if you're looking for a warmer tone palette, if you don't want to spend the money for the Natasha Denona Sunset palette, but you want these types of colors, then I would certainly say check out the ColourPop Yes Please. Yes Please palette. Next up, you know, it wouldn't be a favorite eyeshadow palettes video if I didn't include some Juvia's Place. You've seen all of these You've seen all of these palettes on my channel before, so I'm not going to belabor the point. I have 5 of the palettes. 4 of them are making my favorites video. One of them, the Magic palette you saw in my 2017 favorites that was just posted. I'm going to start off with the Nubian palette, and this is the very first Juvia's Place palette. It is I want to say it is definitely, I'm looking at my Nubian 2 because the Nubian 2 is sort of a neutral palette too. It's got 1 or 2 pops of color, but this palette, the Nubian, is definitely a neutral palette. It's like all the other Juvia's Place palettes. It doesn't come with the mirror, but beautiful cardboard packaging with a beautiful design on it. This is a warm toned neutral palette. So you've got these beautiful cranberry bronze shades here. And then you have your warm and dark browns here. And then your orangey beige shades up here. Some more shimmer shades. You've got a mixture of shimmer and matte. And it's beat up because it is truly a favorite. Again, when I first got this palette, I used it every time I did my eyeshadow. Before I started a YouTube channel, I was posting pictures on Instagram, and like every time I did my makeup and posted a picture, it was using this palette. I had used this palette, and I got to the point where I was like, girl, stop, slow down. You gotta do something else because you can't keep using this palette. But I could because it's that beautiful. I'm going to swatch some of the shades here for you. This palette, you know, in my opinion, has it all. It's even got this right here, this little duochrome shade. And Juvia's Place has since released after the Nubian 2, because the Nubian 2 is a pretty neutral palette too, but they've since gone on to release much more colorful palettes, and I'm going to show you some of those. But this was their original palette, their original neutral palette, and I think it's still one of the best. This palette, this is the only palette that didn't have names to the shadows, but this is that duochrome shade. This is my favorite shade in the palette and one of my all-time favorite eyeshadows in my whole collection. And beautiful. They're all beautiful. If you don't own any Juvia's Place palettes because maybe you're not into color and they seem to be so much more known for their colorful eyeshadows, I just want to let you know and remind you that they do have a beautiful neutral tone palette. You can do everyday looks with this palette. I have used this palette and gone to work and gone to church. So this palette I feel gets slept on a lot, but it really shouldn't. It's a beautiful neutral palette. You can do basic everyday looks with it. You can also tweak it and kick it up just a notch if you want to go a little above everyday neutral. You can do that with this palette. So check it out. In keeping with Juvia's Place, another favorite of mine from that brand is the Saharan palette. She has since released the Saharan 2, which I don't have. Didn't really appeal to me, but this one, similar packaging. Again, all of the packaging looks the same pretty much. Again, a mixture of shimmers and mattes. You do get like your standard orangey brown shade, warm brown shade, and then you get a light matte beigey brown shade, and then all of these shimmers. This coral shade right here, oh, to die for. Sokoto, this is gorgeous. I'm going to swatch some of these for you. This Sokoto is my favorite shade in the palette, and I figured that out once I was doing the tutorial. Of course, all of these palettes are showcased in my eyeshadow tutorial series featuring Juvia's Place, which I will link up here and in the description box below. This is Wadabi. This is Sokoto, this beautiful matte corally orange shade, gorgeous. And this is Kia. In my opinion, no one does shimmer shades like Juvia's Place and Colored Rain. So if you like shimmers, you like bright, you like colors, you like coral, you like the pinks, it has it all. It has all of that and then some. And then there's the Masquerade palette. I feel like the Masquerade palette at this point is a classic. When I think of colorful, I immediately think, and this is the larger size palettes. The other palettes are small in comparison to to the size of this palette. This is the Masquerade palette. You have your 2 rows of neutrals, and then you have your 2 rows of colorful eyeshadows. And when I'm looking for a colorful purple, blue, green, I go right to this palette and I pick one of these shades here. When I need to, I did a tutorial. It was the bright blue eyeshadow tutorial. Check that out. It's on my channel. And I needed to kick it up a notch, and I pulled in this beautiful purple. I mean, you like color, this is the palette for you. And then last but not least in Juvia's Place is the Magic palette. This is the newest addition to my collection. And you've seen this on my channel already. I've done some swatches for you. I will link that in the whole series will be linked down below. And even though I've recently acquired this palette, it quickly has become one of my favorites because the colors are gorgeous and it's got the consistency and the shadows, the pigmentation, the blendability, the high shimmer. Just cop one. You like neutrals, you like colorful, Juvia's Place, they have something for everybody. So moving right along, these last 3 palettes, I'm not going to go into great detail because you've seen them all here before too. The Kat Von D Saint Center palette. I know you're tired of hearing and seeing this palette on this channel. At this point, you know what it looks like. I've done a tutorial using this palette, which I'll link down below and I'll link up here as well. I've done some Instagram photos using this palette. My Instagram information is below. If you're not following me there, I don't know why. You are missing all the fun. But I've done a couple of looks with this palette and posted pictures there. And Kat Von D, you can't go wrong. I have a few others of her palettes. But in terms of favorites, because there's so many different shadows in here, it's so colorful, so many different finishes. Packaging is beautiful, bomb as always. And then two more newer favorites, the Pat McGrath. I know you're tired of seeing these too, so I'm not going to belabor them. But those metallic shades, this is the Subversive palette. And I will link the videos that I've done, tutorials with the Subversive, and first look with that one. And then I don't think I've done one yet. I've posted a look using the Sublime palette on my Instagram page. I actually wore this in one of my videos. It might have been the 2017 favorites. Yeah, I think I was wearing this palette in that video, and these are beautiful. If you have an extra $125 laying around, I would suggest you you invest in one of those palettes. That is it, guys, for my favorite eyeshadow palettes. I'm sure this was another long ass video. I apologize. I apologize for any lighting changes. I'm still working on that. I got my head wrap on today because the fro, she just wouldn't play nice, and I had to put her in timeout because I don't have the patience. And yeah, so that's it. I would love to know what some of your favorite eyeshadow palettes are. Did you see any of your favorites in my list here? And if not, what are some of yours? Thank you for joining me today. If you liked anything, you saw anything that you liked in this video, please go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe, because I bring you all types of beauty related videos every Saturday here on my channel. I hope to see you again next week. Until then, bye-bye.